Hello. You should be live.
Oh my goodness.
We're here
Hi.
in Toronto, Canada. Welcome to the Stream of Truth.
This is really cool. Welcome to the Stream of Truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Chamebrook.
And I'm Sean Kelly.
And today we are talking about embody your inner child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
So maybe I'll first just start with the reason that this felt really important and resonant was I really love Abraham Hicks, and I've signed up for their daily quotes.
Right.
And this amazing quote came in recently, and I think I'll just start by sharing the quote.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
The quote is, reduce your workload by 30% and increase your fun load by 30%, and you will increase your revenues by 100%, and you will increase your productivity by 10,000%, if there could be such a percentage. More fun, less struggle, more results on all fronts.
Yeah. Oh, good morning, Wisconsin. 6 too many cats. Good morning.
Oh, cool. Hi.
Yeah, I think it's funny that they say this. I think that
Hey, Jamie.
the more joy, good morning, Jamie. The more joy and stuff that we bring to our life, in general, just the more we attract to it. So it makes sense that if we're acting out of joy and less out of worry and stuff, that we're not bringing worrisome situations. We're not bringing negative energies to what we're doing, so we don't have these negative things come up for us as much.
Yes, this whole idea of as within, so without.
Exactly.
So what I think is really interesting is it seems like we are taught the opposite.
Yeah. We totally are.
Right?
We're told to grow up and to...
Yeah, literally,
Mhm.
right. We're really told to somewhat abandon our inner child, that we need to get serious about life, that we need to be
Yep.
practical about life. So for me, this just feels like such an unraveling of all of that programming. And I feel that you are really good at embodying
I do
your
pretty
inner
good.
child.
I do pretty good with it, I think. Yeah, for real, I think I do. I think that I have a decent sense of humor, and so I think that's really important, is like being able to find the lightness in things, like not taking everything so seriously. And I don't always I'm not always successful, but certainly I try to live my life that way and try not to worry so much about things. Try to be more flowy, I guess, and like less just worried about everything.
And so I want to ask you, if you compare these two states, like the state when you maybe in the past were more anxious, were more worried, less in your inner child, and then what seemed to manifest versus now when you're maybe more embodying your inner child, is there a difference for you?
What I've noticed, yeah, the primary difference is anxiety and irritation is much more rare for me now.
Yeah.
So like I used to sort of, like at the beginning of the day, I'd wake up and I'd be in a decent little state and I'd be feeling okay. And then I would go to work and start to do my things. And more sort of deadened I was by all of this non-fun. The more like I started to just become irritated, agitated, anxious.
Yeah.
And so now when part of the reason that we're agitated and anxious is because we're like thinking into the future of what's about to go wrong and stuff like that. But when we're like in more of a flow state, we don't really do that. We don't get into these things. We tend to be more present and more, I guess, just, at least for me, less less of that, less of all that irritation, almost to the point where I didn't even realize how irritated I was. Like I didn't even realize that it was a problem. I just thought, I thought maybe I had an anger issue. Well, because like I would be trying to do like normal little things would set me off, like not being able to get the peanut butter open, or I would kind of flip out a little bit before. So I would have these like moments, or like I couldn't get my car seat belt on, and I'd be like, yeah! I'd flip out. And so that type of thing. So if you notice that irritation build up and then exploding, even in these little tiny ways, that's a really good indicator to me that moving more towards the inner child, letting go of some of all this worry about stuff. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about like how pissed I was getting over like car seats, or like the peanut butter or whatever. Or if there was a light, like if I was trying to get to work and there was too many red lights, I'd be so irritated.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny for me now to think back and be like, I was nuts. Like I was kind of nuts in that state. I was kind of I was so disconnected and angry at everything because I didn't want to be doing what I was doing.
Yes. Well. Right. So have you been noticing now with more connection to your inner child and doing what really seems aligned for you? What is your experience of sort of the external reality?
So I notice a lot of opposition from people, like basically people thinking that I don't take anything seriously. So I've noticed that.
Okay, that's interesting.
That causes a bit of a struggle sometimes. So like people kind of want you to worry with them a lot of times.
People want you to worry with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they're worried about stuff, or they're worried for you, either way, and they're bringing that to you, and you seem fine, that to them freaks them out. They don't want you to. They want you to make sure you're prepared for the things that you should be prepared for if they care about you.
Yeah.
And because their framing of all of that is like planning and anxious sort of thought and that type of thing, that if you're not doing that, then you must not care, or you must not be worried about this, and you must be acting irresponsibly, these types of energies.
So that's a really interesting point, that if we are embodying our inner child and really connecting and being more in the present and letting go a bit of the hows, other people around us who are maybe still disconnected from their inner child, this might be really triggering for them.
My experience. Yeah. They had, it depends how your inner child shows up. For me, it shows up as a sort of kind of attitude. And so that can seem like I don't care about anything. Other people can get very silly, like, and just constantly joking. And then also my attention span isn't great, so I'm kind of all over the place, and that can seem irritating for people as well. And because I don't fight it, like people are like, they can get frustrated, like, why don't I focus on anything? Or even just getting ready this morning, I was like, we're like getting ready, and then I'm like, oh, I have to just pull cards for us right now. I have to pull some cards immediately.
Yeah.
And Tassel's like, right before that, she's like, I need 20 minutes to get some stuff done. And I was like, no, we're playing. It's playtime. So some of that stuff, when people are observing you and they're in a bit of a frame of like, they know best, or, anything like that, or they're judging at all, then that can come out a lot in this type of way where you're sort of seen as immature, irresponsible, that type of thing. What about you? Have you, ever since I've met you, I would say that you've seemed to had a very young energy, like a childlike energy, I would say. Now, I do think that you probably are functioning a lot in the doing, kind of like planning in the mind, but you still embody the child a lot too. So I'm curious about that because it's interesting. And what
Yeah.
has your experience been
What
like?
is my experience with that? Yeah, I think my inner child is really strong within me, and I do think her energy infuses me a lot. And I think the more I'm in this process of awakening, the more I've just been connecting with her. Um, and I just want to say, like, I love to be her. I love being with her. She's so light and innocent and playful and fun. So I adore her so much.
Yeah.
And I really just kind of want to be her all the time.
I think it's our more natural state.
Yeah.
I think we forget about it and try to, or we feel like it's not right, and then we move out of it, and later we're like, we try to come back to it, we try to find it again. And a lot of times too, we have a lot of different traumas that are sort of repressing our inner child, right? Like different behaviors we may have done as a child that we were told isn't appropriate, then we've sort of tucked them away. It becomes a part of our shadow.
Yes.
Right? Like we don't accept this part of ourselves that was, maybe spoken or kind of rambunctious or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that I'm in this process. I'm sort of feeling out, can I be in my inner child all the time? I think that's part of what I'm figuring out. Is it safe? And this really ties in with being present. Is it safe to be present all the time? My thinking mind still gets scared.
Totally.
Do I need to, plan or fret about something for things to be okay? So to me, I kind of see being present and being in my inner child almost like they're the same.
That's how I see it too.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And yeah, it's a frightening place a little bit for the part of the mind or part of the self that's used to all the planning and all the thinking and all that type of stuff, all of this practical. We're sort of taught that that's the way to find success. Like to achieve an outcome, you have to list all the things like beforehand and then hit them off one by one. And I'm not saying that you can't do that. Of course you can. But what I've found is that when we're a little bit more flowy with it and just sort of letting it all happen, planning as we feel inclined to plan, not from a place of pressure, that we're more just flowy, more and our, if you observe like a child, when they get really involved in something, like let's say they're drawing a picture, they're focused, like they get so focused, nothing else exists.
Yes.
Sometimes they won't hear you talking when you're like, hey, so and so. They don't hear you because they're such in a presence with what they're doing.
Yep.
So the same thing happens when we're working or trying to create something, and we're in flow and kind of connected with our inner child, I think, and we're just as effective, and actually I would say we're probably more effective at what we're trying to do when we're in that state. But the mind tells us that we won't be, and tries to freak us out.
Yes.
That's the only way for it to survive and to maintain its control, right?
Yes. It's really interesting. What I notice is that my old default way of feeling safe is to just live in my thinking mind and take care of everything my thinking mind thinks is important. Like making sure the house is really clean, making sure I'm really organized, all my bills are super taken care of and all of that. But then when I live like that, I'm not leaving any space for the magic to happen, for basically spirit to come through me, and for me to really be engaged in what I'm really here to be engaged in doing. So what my practice has been more recently is, of course, take care of what feels I need to take care of, but be more present, be more open to the nudges that are coming through for how I want to spend the time in the day, and really just following my heart. I think all of these are really equivalent, like living in the heart mind, being present, being really connected to my inner child. What makes me really happy to do?
Yeah.
And that's how I've been living more. And it seems to be working.
Yeah, and of course there's a balance. I can balance too far that way
Okay, yeah.
and be like,
yeah.
I don't feel like paying my bill.
Right.
So
right.
I won't.
My inner child doesn't want to sit down and do the bills.
That type of stuff, right? So there's a balance around, I think, what you should do that just makes sense in a responsible way. Fact of the matter is that we live in a world that we use money.
Yeah.
We buy stuff. We have to pay for the things we have.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have to pay and we own our own land or whatever, there's tasks we have to do
yeah.
to survive, right?
Yes.
And so the mind can tell us that if we don't plan all that out and make, these sort of structures and regimens, I guess, of scheduling and stuff like that too, that we'll never do it. I think there is some benefit to simplifying your decision making.
Oh, I like that.
There's a study.
Tell me how you do that.
There's a study. Shoot, I can't remember the name of the people that did it, but basically it was saying that willpower. Everybody has a sort of finite amount of willpower in a given day, more or less.
Okay.
So if you're spending your willpower trying to make a bunch of decisions around like what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, that type of thing.
Yes.
Then you're sort of taking from that fuel tank of willpower.
Yes.
And then not able to use that for the creation. So
right. I love that.
What they recommend is that doing any act of creation, so like something like this, like doing a stream or doing whatever your work is, any of your creative stuff, doing that first.
Yes.
And then doing that the other stuff. And the way that I like to think about that is like you're sort of, if you're true to yourself most of the time, you'd probably prefer to do that thing than like mow the lawn.
Yes.
Or whatever, right?
Yes.
And so it's not that you don't do those other things, it's that you take care of in order to like, you sort of put a priority on your creative output.
Yes.
Instead of putting a priority on
the
other things,
thinking mind's tasks.
One of the examples they gave was, I'm sure everybody's been like in the grocery store and after like an hour of walking down the aisles, picking all the things, figuring out like, do I have the money for it all, and trying to pick between items, it's a little draining.
Right.
Like,
yes.
It's because we're drawing on all of our willpower to make decisions.
Yes.
And we're basically wasting
our energy we would have to be creative.
And if we were to use all that energy in the beginning and then go shopping later, we'd still accomplish the shopping.
Yes.
Right? We probably wouldn't care so much about the things we're picking. We'd be a little more lazier with the choosing.
Yes.
But really, the mind or I guess the willpower, it's the way that they were framing this, gets drawn upon in an indiscriminate kind of way. So the self doesn't know the difference between creating something it really cares about versus
something
like
that
choosing its clothes.
Right.
And that the same amount of attention gets put into it, and then that there's a sort of limited amount of that energy available in a day, and some people have more, some people have less.
Yes.
Some people are more disciplined than others, and this is why people like Steve Jobs and stuff would wear the same thing every day.
That's such a great point.
So they didn't have to, or they'd cook their meals all on Sunday, and then so they don't have to choose anything. They're not wasting any energy
that
on
life
this type
force.
of stuff.
Yes.
So I think I'm balanced between that, because regimenting that stuff I think is also detrimental.
Could feel deadening.
Yeah, like you kind of like a robot, right? Like, or at least for me, I think it depends on the person. I totally always, right? But I think some people would really benefit from that, but other people, and that would give them more freedom if they like, schedule and plan those things throughout the week, so they already know what they're going to eat in the morning or whatever. They're not making these decisions constantly. But other people might just like to follow the whims, and they might just enjoy life more that way. So you have to pay attention to that too.
Yeah.
Like, I could never live by that schedule. I would feel like I'm in prison. I'd feel like I'm a prisoner, basically, right? So But I think there is a lot of truth to what they were saying about willpower and about how the self doesn't really know the difference and just puts all the willpower that it can into everything it's doing,
right,
indiscriminately.
Right.
So if you try to shift that a little, and find the right balance for you, but then focus on the things that are inspired in you first,
yes,
then I think you'll be more effective at being an inner child, still accomplishing all the things.
Yes.
Right?
It feels like just privileging the creative inspiration.
Yeah, and if we think about like what we value, most of us truly value the creative output. Like if we're in something like this where we create videos or courses, whatever we're doing, truly what we know is that that's our like bread and butter. That's what's
right.
That's what we're offering as value to people.
Yes.
That's what we should focus on.
Yes.
But then the mind goes, oh, we got to do this. We got to do all these other things. And it goes, well, I'll just take care of all these 10 things.
And then exactly.
Then I'll be free to do the stuff. But
exactly.
But what happens is we waste all of our energy doing all that. And then we come to the creative stuff and we're a little drained. It's not as good as it probably would have been.
Yes.
And I think basically what we're advocating is letting go of the, yes, we have to do those things, the other things, but we don't necessarily have to do them at the timing that the mind's kind of pushing for.
Yes.
We can put our pulls, our inspired actions before them.
Yes.
And then just trust that it'll be fine.
Yes.
Like, yes, we might submit our bill payment one day late.
Yes.
And that's fine. It's fine.
And it's really interesting because if we tend to focus more on the things we think we have to do, they get really big and they seem even more complicated.
Yeah.
But if we do focus first on our creative output, our passion, what the inner child really wants to do, and then we have like a shorter time to do the things that we have to do, they get smaller.
Yeah.
What's the phrase? It's like things always expand to fit the amount of time you have. So if you only have a short amount of time to take care of the things the more practical things, you'll just get it done more quickly.
Yeah. Totally.
I love what you said about this thinking mind orientation of first, I'll take care of everything that's important in my practical life, and then I'll have time to do what I really want to do. It feels safer.
Because I know that I have all this to take care of.
Yes.
This creative thing that I want to do is maybe a little amorphous. Maybe I don't totally even know what it looks like. Maybe I don't even really know where to begin.
And often there isn't a deadline.
And there's not a deadline
our creative,
usually.
Inspiration.
But there's this set other stuff to do.
Yeah, that is right in front of you that seems so important. And
so the mind's like, oh, I know what to do. I can just do this. And then I'll feel safe to do the rest.
Exactly. But
if we reverse it.
And then I think also another practice that ties in, and I think this is probably an inner child practice, is the idea of imperfect action. That, even what we're doing today is like probably a little imperfect.
I think it's perfect.
I'm sure it could be better.
Yeah, I wish you guys could see the bit of a mess that we've set up here to try and get this stream going.
I think what I'm trying to say is the thinking mind can always think, I'm not going to do this because I'm not quite ready to do it. Whatever it is, writing a book, doing YouTube videos, painting, whatever your heart really wants to do. The thinking mind can think, no, we can't really do that yet. We're not quite ready. We don't have all the pieces in place yet.
I even think, I just want to highlight this, that right before we went live, Tassel was like, we got to print out all this document stuff. And I was like, okay. And so we print them all out. We didn't realize how long they were. And then the printer here is like kind of crappy. And so it's interesting that the thinking mind was like, we need to have all of this stuff right in front of us, all printed out, and like know exactly what we're doing.
Yes.
And then the printer was just like, no. Right? So we were like, we had to sort of in the moment just be like, okay, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
And just start to flow with it. And so we have the computer here with some of the stuff up, but what I'm finding is we're not really referencing anything. We're talking about it without really looking, and it's all going well. I'm trying to highlight that the thinking mind thought, oh, we got to prepare this way. We got to have this material.
Yeah.
And then I think almost these little lessons come in for spirit to just be like, you don't need.
Yes, it's so true. Because even as I was writing, I just tend to write notes before the stream, and we're teaching a course after this. As I was writing the notes, I was realizing I'm doing this just to make myself feel more secure. I don't really need to be doing it.
Yeah.
Like somehow having the notes in front of me, the thinking mind feels safer or something. And so even as I was writing it, I was realizing I really need to be doing this. This is not necessary.
I didn't want to say anything because when she said we should print these out or we'll print these out, I was like, yeah, I mean, sure. Because for me, I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna look at them at all.
No, you don't.
I like to try to do what people feel more comfortable with. So of course I'm not gonna argue. But I just know me, and like even if I have the papers, I'm not really able to read them while I'm talking and stuff anyways. So I tend to not do that. But I just think it's really interesting that we're talking about sort of that type of thing that that's part of, I think, sort of embodying the inner child, which is I think what we called the video, right? Embody your inner child. Is about remembering sort of what it's like to be very carefree, very innocent.
Yes.
Just expressing and enjoy, and remember what it's like to just play, right?
And to show up just as yourself is part of the beauty of the inner child, that I don't have to fit myself into any box when I'm in my inner child. I can just be me. I'm just showing up as me.
Exactly.
Not as an identity that I've been socialized to think I need to show up as.
That can be kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
At first, like when you first start to do it. A lot of us have aspects of us that are very childlike, and when we're comfortable with certain groups of friends, maybe certain coworkers, whatever, that comes out of us. And so I think part of what we have to do is notice that aspect of ourselves that we do let out sometimes, and try to feel comfortable letting that out lots of times, all the time, as best we can.
And to use our feelings as our guidance system. So I know when I'm so stuck in my thinking mind and I've really abandoned my inner child, I will start to feel very deadened inside and very dulled and sad, basically. And then when I'm more connected with my inner child and more present, and as you said, that word you used, carefree, that is really reverberating in me. This idea of, can we be carefree in the moment? Is that even possible?
Yeah, it feels kind of freaky. If we don't care...
Does that mean we're not preparing for what we need to prepare for?
What kind of terrible things are going to happen
to us
if we're not preparing and terrified of everything?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that if we're not, I believe that if we're not thinking of all these terrible things, really the only bad things that will happen are the things that are kind of predestined.
Yeah, that we
planned for.
That we orchestrated. Yeah, exactly.
That some of the thinking and all that stuff is actually what forms our negative catalyst.
Yes.
And so if we're in a state of carefree, joy, bliss, and all of that we just tend to attract more of that. Exactly.
As within, so without.
Right.
So if we are carrying carefree energy internally, we're going to see a match to that, right? Because I like how you said that often we're projecting our inner reality into the external reality.
Yeah, so if we're worried, we're going to experience stuff that worries us.
Yes.
And stuff that helps us feel more worried.
Yep.
And if we're not, then we won't. And even when stuff does happen, we won't really worry about it.
Abraham Hicks has a quote about, you can tell what's happening next externally by how you feel now.
Right.
So how you feel now as an indicator of what is coming up. So if we are in the thinking mind and in the fear and in the anxiety and the worry, we may very well be creating that those types of situations to come
Yeah,
in.
most likely it's going to manifest in some way,
Yeah.
you know, because that's how reality gets formed.
So I love to approach all of this like as a science experiment, to just you know, for instance, like for 1 week, just really completely relax the thinking mind, really be super present, hold this energy of carefreeness, and just sort of see what happens in your reality.
I always think of the Fool card whenever I'm thinking of the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
The Fool card also represents, I think, the divine self, the Atman, the supreme self, that knows there is absolutely nothing to be afraid of.
Yes.
So this gets embodied by the inner child, and the inner child doesn't know fear yet, doesn't have the concepts of what to be afraid of, and so we'll walk off a cliff, or, you know, just sort of blindly go forward in very foolhardy bravery, like totally ignorant of the dangers, right? And I think that's where we want to be. I actually think that to almost just be ignorant of the potential dangers helps us so much to like just not really experience them. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
we don't have any concept of them, and so to embody our inner child, what we want to do is notice these things that are impeding our ability to do that, whatever they are, and then try to go the other way, which will likely be freaky at first.
Yes.
Like, so for the printing today, that was a little freaky probably for us. I actually found it a little freaky because I was like, oh, she wants to print this and the printer didn't work, so now we don't have what we need. So I noticed that even though it's not my thing, it freaked me out too. So I can imagine that it's just a freaky situation. And so I think if we orient ourselves to noticing some of the freaky things that maybe like we'd feel better about planning or whatever, and then just going, you know what, I'm not going to plan.
Yeah.
Or like, or if we're going to choose dinner, like, we're not going to pick it and check the menu. We're just going to drive somewhere, and we'll talk on the way, and then, you know, we'll look out the window and we'll find the place that we want to sit at.
Yeah.
And trying to do those types of things that just seem a little weird. I think following that intuition, just like following the body and in the natural flow, I think brings you to miracles.
Absolutely. And Angelic Sunflame just wrote in living without fear.
Yes. Oh, and hi from Germany.
Yeah.
Well. Hello.
Awesome.
And hi, Katrina. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this is, I feel like, the biggest practice that I'm unraveling is everything we're talking about. It's very exciting. It is a little scary too. It's scary to the thinking mind.
Yeah, and some people find it easier than others too. Like, some people could be very, very, very disconnected from their inner child, and so I think a large part of what they'll be doing is like reconnecting with that.
Yeah.
And so for me, luckily, I didn't lose that too much. I've always found things quietly amusing. Like, and just inside, I've just been like, everything's so amusing and strange and funny to me. Almost like I was meant to be a comedian, but just never went that way, that type of thing. Or maybe I was before or something. And I just have that sort of, I can see the absurdity of things that some other people don't notice.
Yeah.
It seems. And so luckily for me, I kept that feeling of like everything's funny. And then I noticed that I was pretending, though, that it wasn't. Like, I'm pretending that things aren't funny, that I don't want to make jokes, and I'm pretending that I'm serious and things like that. So a lot of my serious persona, even now, when I'm in a serious mode, a lot of times in these videos, it's persona that I'm bringing. It's not so much me.
Yeah.
Right? It's not my true self.
Right.
Really.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to teach, and so I am serious. I am teach.
Yeah, I need to inhabit an identity.
And so I noticed in myself that we do that. We all do it.
Yeah.
Everything that we ever do is identity expressing itself.
Yeah.
In this place, like, there's no way not to have. If you don't have identity, then you're sitting as Brahman or Atman consciousness, or like Jesus or Buddha, something like that. So maybe that's your path. But for most of us, we're probably trying to find a place that we can sit in that is comfortable, that is not quite to that degree. Although I'm curious to see where that's going, because I'm starting to notice like regular folks running around at like those high consciousness levels, or it feels to me anyway, that they're embodying that. So really cool.
I wanted to just share that I think I totally abandoned my inner child for the vast majority of my life. And now often when I do work with clients, we do a practice of connecting with their inner child, because for a lot of the people I work with, they too have been so disconnected from their inner child. So I wondered if I could just share the practice.
Please do.
In case this might be helpful to anyone. And there are infinite ways, of course, to connect with your inner child. I'll just share one way that I've used that seems to have been effective. It's really just to close your eyes and drop into your heart space and invite your inner child to come into your heart and be with you there. And what often happens is you'll see an image sometimes of your inner child, or you might hear your inner child talking, or you might just have a knowingness about him or her, sort of depending on how your clairs are developing. And for me, I'll just share that when I first connected with my inner child, she was in a prison. And she was just bedraggled. Her hair was dirty. She had she looked like a little homeless child.
I was thinking of Oliver Twist.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a boy, but still, yeah.
And when I first connected with her, I just asked if it was okay if I could connect with her. And she did want to connect with me. And then over time, I've connected with her in this way, and it's really cool. She looks different now. She's out of the prison. She's in a really cute like pink dress. I think the type of dress I always wished I had when I was a kid, and her hair looks pretty. So there's so many ways to connect with our inner child, but that's one way to do it. And then I think another really fun practice is you have some free time or make some free time and just connect with your inner child and ask your inner child what they want to do today. How do they want to spend the day?
Yeah. I think spending some time, and just the practice I'd like to share is just spending some time to literally just go into your memory and remember some of the child moments that you had. Try to remember some of the feelings, like when you used to put the blankets up over your knees and play with your figures or your Barbies or whatever. And like make mountains out of the sheets, and and the make believe, and try to remember some of the feelings and remember some of the like mystery. You might go to like your grandma's house, and because you had never been there, it's like this magical weird place. Things like that. Like I remember going into a basement, just being like, whoa, it's a dungeon. And of course it's just a basement, but the child mind is just full of wonder and mystery.
Yes.
Trying to remember some of those feelings. And then the more you do that, I find the more you can just remember it on a whim. Like you could sort of be driving around being like, oh, I'm busy. I've got so much to do. And then you can just be like, oh, I'm having fun with all this weird stuff. And then also, like, what I like to remember is that even in these monotonous, boring things that I got to do sometimes, I can find little things that are interesting and exciting that I can be curious about. I can, like, see people doing things, or I can notice my own inner child that's kind of like, this is boring. I don't want to do this, and stuff like that. And then I can just be amused at some of my state while I'm doing these things.
Yes. Like honoring how your inner child feels about it.
Yeah, and that helps to accept the part of you that doesn't want to do the thing. Like a lot of times we push that away.
Yes.
And that creates a disharmony that builds. So
Yep.
so it helps us to like release some of the energies.
Yes.
Even though we're not saying anything or really doing anything.
Yeah.
We're just sort of trying to bring a curious joy, or a humor.
Yep.
To everything.
Yes, exactly.
Even the
Oh,
boring
I love
stuff.
that. I love that's a great practice to really to honor the inner child throughout all the more mundane stuff that sometimes is needed to do. Like to just to honor how the inner child feels about all of it.
What I've found is it's not so much about like what we do in the world. It's more about like how we notice that we control the frame of mind we bring to things.
Yes.
And then the more we notice that and we can shift it, and we just become shapeshifters, basically.
Yes.
Where we can be the inner child, still be effective, and just find it funny, kind of joyful and interesting and all that, and just approach it as if you've never done it before, basically. That's the trick, I think, is to, as you know, even though you may have done the same thing 1,000 times, you know that this moment is a new moment.
Yes.
And it will be new. Somehow it'll be new. And I find like I get entertained by myself when I'm doing these things.
Yeah, when you're not shutting your inner child down.
Yeah, or when you clean, you said you get a lot of guidance come in and stuff like that. I think when we do that, any of these things, and we just are open to what's coming, then we have good experiences.
Totally. And I just want to share one last practice that has been really sweet for me. I took a picture of myself as a child. I was probably like 8 years old, and I put the picture in a really beautiful frame, really nice frame, and I have it in my house. It's actually in my kitchen. It's just, I see it all the time, and it just feels like I'm honoring my inner child.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just feels really, really powerful to do that.
Another thing that I've done before is, as I'm going to sleep, I'll imagine my inner child and sort of ask to have maybe an experience with them in my dream. And so you do that a little bit, and can have some interesting sort of remembrances going back to, like, I started to have remembrances of like being a baby, weird things that people don't tend to remember.
Yeah.
And getting more of an idea of like just how much some of the trauma I was able to see that way as well.
Yes.
Like even very simple, you could have the best parents in the world. But like, I think I remembered a moment where my mom was trying to talk to the neighbor, and I was barely able to speak.
Yeah.
And I wanted my toy, and she was like not listening to me, and she wanted to talk to the neighbor, right? Who was right in front of her, two adults talking. And I'm like in my mom's arms trying to get her to hand me the toy, I think in her other hand. And she's just ignoring me, right? And so, and my mom had treated me very well. And, there was nothing there. But to me, I was being totally abandoned.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I remember, and I had these dreams of feeling this stuff. So some painful stuff can come up with some of these practices.
Yeah.
But we can transmute those and like sort of be thankful for the lessons, because those little lessons as children end up sort of informing a lot of our life.
Yeah.
And we have like these abandonment things and stuff. If my greatest abandonment was when my mom didn't give me a toy, it's a pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one, but it was amazing to me how painful it was.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
How intense.
Yes.
I took that as a small baby who couldn't express its feelings.
Yep.
Couldn't talk really, but I didn't get my toy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna end now. We have a course that we're gonna do in about 10 minutes, patrons. So we got to start prepping for that now. I know this was a bit shorter than usual, but if you guys liked it, click the like button, subscribe, and if you want to check out the course stuff, patron link below.
And I just want to say, we'd love to hear about your experiences with your inner child and what happens the more and more that you connect with him or her and really embody him or her, and sort of how you end up experiencing your life. It feels like we're kind of all on an adventure with doing that. So we'd love to hear your experiences too.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So much